You know that feeling like you're caught in a storm inside your own head with waves of emotion that just feel way too big to handle? Well, today we're not just going to talk about that storm, we're going to learn how to actually surf those waves.
Yeah, that's the feeling, right? One tiny thing goes wrong and suddenly you're just spiraling. Or a wave of anxiety just crashes over you out of nowhere and you can't even think straight. Look, it can feel incredibly isolating when that happens, but I promise you, you are so not alone in this, especially if you're navigating any kind of big life change.
So what is actually going on when it feels like your emotions have just, hijacked the cockpit? Well, believe it or not, there's a name for this whole experience. And just understanding what it is, that's the first and maybe the most important step to getting your hands back on the controls. Okay, so here's the official term, emotional dysregulation. Now that sounds kind of clinical, but here's what it really means. It is not a character flaw. It's not you being too much or too sensitive. It's simply a challenge in managing really intense feelings, which can lead to reactions that might seem, well, a little out of proportion to what's happening. And if you're a young adult trying to figure out independence and all these new responsibilities, yeah, this can be a huge challenge.
Okay, so how do you know if this is something that's happening in your life? Let's dive into some of the most common warning signs. And as we go through them, just see if any of these sound familiar. It can be a real aha moment.
All right, let's look at these. We've got intense reactions to small things, those rapid-fire mood swings, and that feeling of just having a really hard time calming down once you're stressed. That's a big one. It can also show up as impulsivity, maybe doing things you regret later. And of course, it can really strain your relationships and just leave you with this constant negative feeling about yourself. But here's the thing. These usually aren't separate issues. They're all connected. Think about it. Maybe you get some minor feedback at work and have a huge reaction. Then you can't calm down all afternoon, which might lead to a rash decision that night. See how they link up? The real key here is starting to notice how those dots connect for you.
But, and this is a really big but, here's the good news. This is not a personal failing. I really want that to sink in. It's more like you just need an upgrade to your emotional toolkit. We all have ways we deal with stress, right? The thing is, some of those tools just work a whole lot better than others. And this right here, this is a total game changer. The goal isn't to get control of your emotions, to bottle them up, or just pretend they aren't there. No way. It's all about learning how to respond to them skillfully. That's the secret sauce. It's the difference between being knocked over by every single wave and actually learning how to get up on the board and surf.
This chart really lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the stuff that honestly just keeps you stuck. We're talking about that endless loop of worry, right? Rumination, or just shoving your feelings down, suppression, isolating yourself, blaming yourself. Sound familiar? But now, look at the right side. This is where the magic happens. These are the helpful strategies. So instead of that endless worry, we can learn to reframe things. Instead of bottling it all up, we can actually reach out for support. It's all about consciously making the choice to pull a tool from the right-hand column instead of the left.
Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Like, in the moment? Well, I want to walk you through a super powerful, super practical tool you can use literally anytime you feel that storm starting to brew. It's called the RAIN method.
Yep, RAIN. It stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. It's a really simple way to remember how to bring a little mindfulness, and this part is so important, a little self-compassion into those really tough moments. Let's break down what each of those letters means.
First up, R for recognize. Now this sounds simple, but it's not always easy. It just means naming what's going on inside. You're just acknowledging the thoughts, the feelings, the physical sensations that are happening. It could be as simple as saying in your head, oh, okay, anxiety is here. Or, wow, I feel that anger right in my chest. The key, zero judgment. You're just an observer, just noticing what's present.
Okay, next is A for allow. This step goes against pretty much every instinct we have, which is to immediately try to fix the feeling, or push it away, or find a distraction. Instead, you just let it be there. You allow it. This creates this incredibly powerful pause. You could even say to yourself, it's okay, or this is allowed to be here. You're literally giving the feeling space to exist instead of wrestling with it.
Then we get to I for investigate. And I want to be clear, this is not about analyzing or psychoanalyzing yourself. It's about investigating with a gentle curiosity. You're just asking, what's this actually like? Where do I feel this in my body? Is it a tightness in my throat? A pit in my stomach? Or asking that really powerful question you see here, what does this vulnerable part of me actually need right now? It's all about connecting with how the emotion feels, physically, in your body.
And last but definitely not least is N for nurture. This is where the self-compassion really kicks in. You ask yourself, what does that hurting part of me need to hear right now? Maybe it needs reassurance. Maybe it needs to hear that it's okay. And you can offer a simple, kind gesture, like putting a hand over your heart and just whisper a message of care to yourself. Something like, I'm here with you, or, hey, it's not your fault.
Now, it's so important to remember that a tool like RAIN isn't a magic wand. It's not a one-time fix. It's a practice. Think of it like going to the gym for your emotions. Every single time you use it, you're not just surviving a difficult moment, you're actually building that muscle of emotional resilience for the long haul.
And really, that brings us to the single most important idea of this whole explainer. The point of all this isn't to get to some magical place where you never feel sad or angry or anxious ever again. That's not realistic. The real goal is to completely change your relationship with those feelings. It's about learning to meet them with curiosity and compassion instead of with fear and fighting.
So I want to leave you with a question to take with you. After hearing all this, what is one small, I mean really small, way you can offer yourself just a little bit of compassion today? It doesn't have to be some big production. It could literally be just taking one single deep breath when you feel stressed. That's it. Because the whole journey starts with just one tiny step. So, what will yours be?